Nobody learns to cook by only reading recipes. You can study a recipe for hours. You can memorize every ingredient. You can watch 100 cooking videos. You can know the exact temperature, the exact timing, the exact amount of salt. But until you walk into that kitchen, pick up that knife, and actually start, you're not cooking. You are just reading about cooking. And that's exactly what's happening with your English. In this video, I'm going to show you why waiting for perfect grammar is actually the thing keeping you silent. Why your mistakes are not your enemy. They're the best teacher you will ever have. And I'll tell you about one of my students, a taxi driver from Athens, who studied English grammar for 20 years and still couldn't say a full sentence to a tourist sitting in his car. Until one small decision changed everything. By the end of this video, you'll never see your mistakes the same way again. And here's the thing. The first meal you cook, it's probably going to be terrible. Oh, I mean really terrible. Too much salt, burned edges, something that was supposed to be soft is now hard as a rock. But you know what? That terrible meal teaches you more than 1,000 perfect recipes ever could. Because your hands learned something. Your eyes learned something. Your brain received something that no book can give you. Experience. I'm Emma, a language psychologist, and I help English learners break through the mental walls that stop them from speaking, using psychology, neuroscience, and a lot of empathy. Because I've burned plenty of meals myself, and I'm a better cook now, because of every meal I ruined then. Now, here's something I need you to really hear. Your English does not need to be perfect for people to understand you. It doesn't. I know that feels wrong. I know every teacher you ever had corrected your mistakes with a red pen. I know the voice inside your head says, if I say something wrong, people will think I'm not smart. But let me ask you something. Have you ever met a tourist in your country? Someone visiting? And they tried to speak your language? Maybe they said the words wrong. Maybe the grammar was a mess. Maybe their pronunciation made you smile a little. But did you judge them? Did you think they were not smart? No. You probably thought, oh, that's so nice. They're trying. You felt warm. You felt connected. You wanted to help them. That's exactly how people feel when you speak English with mistakes. They don't hear your grammar. They hear your courage. They don't notice the error. They notice the effort. But here's the problem, and this is the part that breaks my heart. Most English learners don't believe this, because somewhere deep inside their mind, there's a voice, a quiet, strict, cold voice that says, don't speak until you're ready. Don't open your mouth until the sentence is correct. Don't embarrass yourself. Psychologists call this perfectionism paralysis. And I want you to understand what that means, because it might be the single biggest thing standing between you and fluency. Perfectionism paralysis is when your brain sets the bar so high that you can never reach it. So you don't even try. You study more grammar. You memorize more words. You watch more videos. You prepare more. And more. And more. But you never actually speak, because it's never good enough. And here's the part that makes it even worse. You start to compare yourself to other people. You see someone who started learning English after you, and they're already speaking. They make mistakes everywhere. Their grammar is a mess. But they're talking, they're laughing, they're connecting. And you think, how? How can they do that? I know more grammar than them. So why can't I speak? Because they got on the bicycle, and you're still reading the manual. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing in a kitchen. All the ingredients are on the table. The recipe is open. The oven is hot. Everything is ready. But you just stand there because you're afraid the meal won't be perfect. So you read the recipe one more time. You check the measurements again. You watch another video about how to chop onions correctly. Hours pass. The kitchen is still clean. The oven is still empty. And at the end of the day, you're still hungry because you never cooked. That's what perfectionism does to your English. It keeps the kitchen clean, but the plate empty. Pause for a moment. How long have you been studying English? 1 year, 5 years, 10? And how many real conversations have you had? Not practice dialogues from a textbook. Real conversations, real people. Where you said what you wanted to say? If the answer is not many, that's not because you don't know enough English. It's because you're waiting for your English to be perfect before you use it. And I need you to know that moment will never come. Perfection doesn't arrive. It's not a destination. It's a trap, a beautiful, comfortable, safe trap that keeps you studying forever and speaking never. I want to tell you about Dimitris. Dimitris is 53 years old. He drives a taxi in Athens. And every single day, tourists get into his car. British, American, Australian, German, Japanese. People from everywhere, all speaking English. And for 20 years, Dimitris had the same routine. A tourist gets in. They tell him where to go. He nods. He drives. Silence. The whole ride. Silence. Not because he was unfriendly. Dimitris is one of the warmest people I've ever met. But because every time he wanted to say something in English, that voice in his head would start. You'll say it wrong. Your grammar is terrible. They'll laugh. Just stay quiet. It's safer. 20 years of silence. In his own taxi. With people who wanted to talk to him. Now think about this for a second. You're in a taxi in a beautiful city. Athens. The sun is shining. You're a tourist. You're excited. And the driver. The person who knows this city better than anyone. Sits in silence. Because he's afraid of making a grammar mistake. Have you ever stayed quiet? Not because you had nothing to say, but because you were afraid to say it wrong. Dimitris came to me 8 months ago, and the first thing he said in Greek was, Emma, I know more English grammar than my daughter. She's 16. She makes mistakes everywhere. But she talks to tourists like it's nothing. Like she's not afraid of anything. And me? I sit there like a statue. I'm her father. And she's braver than me in English. I could hear the pain in those words. Not anger, not frustration. Something deeper. Shame. The quiet shame of a grown man who feels smaller than his teenage daughter. In his own taxi. In his own city. So I told him something that he didn't expect. I said, Dimitris, I don't want you to learn more English. I want you to learn less. He looked confused. I want you to forget everything you know about grammar rules. For the next 30 days, I want you to cook. Stop reading the recipe, walk into the kitchen, and make a mess. I gave him one exercise. I call it the ugly sentence challenge. Every day, when the first tourist got into his taxi, Dimitris had to say one sentence. Just one. It didn't have to be correct. It didn't have to be beautiful. It just had to be real. Welcome. Athens is very hot today. Yes, that counts. You go to Acropolis? Very beautiful. You will like. That counts. Even, hello, I am Dimitris. My English is not so good, but I try. Especially that counts. The rule was simple. One ugly sentence per ride. That's it. No grammar checking, no planning the perfect words. Just open your mouth and let something come out. The first week, it was painful. Dimitris told me he wanted to disappear into the seat. His first sentence to a tourist was, "Today is sun." Not sunny, just sun. And he immediately thought, that was wrong. I said it wrong. They'll think I'm... But the tourist just smiled and said, yes, beautiful day. And the world didn't end. Nobody laughed, nobody corrected him, nobody looked at him differently. The tourist just answered. Like a normal human being having a normal conversation. That moment changed something inside Dimitris. Not because the English was good, but because he finally realized communication happened. Even with "today is sun," even with a grammar mistake, even with an ugly sentence. The message arrived. The connection was made. By the second week, Dimitris was saying 2 or 3 sentences per ride. Still messy, still imperfect, but real. And something unexpected started happening. He started enjoying it. He started looking forward to the next tourist. For the first time in 20 years, he wanted someone to get into his taxi. He told me, "Emma, a British couple got in my taxi yesterday. I told them, this street, very old. My grandfather, he walked here when he was small boy." And the woman said, "Oh, how lovely." And we talked for the whole ride. 20 minutes. In English. In my taxi. His voice cracked when he told me that. Because for 20 years, that taxi was a prison of silence. And now, with ugly, broken, beautiful English, it became a place of connection. By the 4th week, tourists started leaving reviews online. Our taxi driver Dimitris was amazing. He told us stories about Athens. His English wasn't perfect, but his passion was incredible. Not perfect, but incredible. Read that again. Not perfect, but incredible. That is what happens when you stop reading the recipe and start cooking. The meal isn't perfect, but the people at the table love it. Because it's real. Because it's warm. Because it came from someone who cared enough to try. Now I want to ask you something. And please, don't answer fast. Let this question sit with you. Right now, in your life, are you the person standing in the kitchen, reading the recipe for the 100th time? Or are you the person who finally picks up the knife and starts cooking? Are you Dimitris in year 1, silent in his own taxi? Or Dimitris in week 4, telling stories about his grandfather's street in ugly, broken, beautiful English? Because here's what nobody tells you about fluency. Fluency is not the moment you stop making mistakes. That moment never comes. Not for me. Not for native speakers. not for anyone. Fluency is the moment you stop caring about mistakes and start caring about connection. And that moment, it doesn't require more grammar. It doesn't require more vocabulary. It doesn't require another year of study. It requires one ugly sentence, just one, tomorrow, in a real conversation, with a real person. Hello, my name is... I am from... Nice to meet you. Ugly? Maybe. Beautiful? Absolutely. Because that sentence, that imperfect, messy, real sentence, means you finally stepped into the kitchen. You finally stopped waiting. You finally chose connection over perfection. And that takes more courage than any grammar test ever will. So here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow, find one moment, just one, where you can say something in English. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be yours. And then come back here and tell me in the comments. What was your ugly sentence? What did you say? And what happened? I'll be here, reading every single one. Because every ugly sentence you write in that comment section is proof that you got on the bicycle, that you walked into the kitchen, that you stopped reading the recipe and started living in English. Your messy English, your imperfect grammar, your ugly sentences. They're not something to be ashamed of. They're something to be proud of. And that is the most beautiful thing in the world. Bye for now.